Welcome to another episode of I Am Maria podcast, a space where we explore the impact stories that inspire us to be who we are today, showing how our personal decisions and tools shape our lives. Today, I'm joined by two incredible, inspiring souls, Justin and Kelly Harris. For me, partners in life, design, and adventure. From high-powered design careers at Disney and Gulfstream to building a live brand on a tropical island where these two didn't just follow a dream. They're building it brick by brick. Together, we'll talk about saying yes to chances, building a business that reflects your values, and designing a life that feels just like good as it looks. So let's dive into this amazing story. And I'm not going to talk so much, even though I do. But let's start with the first question, which is going to help us get to know a little more about Justin and Kelly. So, who are you guys? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for
Thanks
having
for
us,
having
Maria.
us.
So I'm Justin Harris. So I'm an architect originally from Chicago. And what I was saying was I studied architecture at school, graduated with a degree in architecture, and then moved to LA and started working for Disney right out of school, designing theme parks around the world.
And I'm Kelly. I'm Justin's wife and business partner. And similarly, I attended university for interior design, which then led me after graduation to Disney Imagineering, where I met Justin. I had a great start to my career in theme parks, and it started to define me as a designer with detail, looking meticulous at how the whole crowd uses spaces. So I would say that I'm very detail oriented. I love being creative, and I think that really drives our company, Snobbirds.
Wow. Like just right now, right here. Wow. I will ask later this question again, but I really want to know how you guys out just from college right to Disney. Like
Yeah, we
we'll
have two
drive
different
into that.
paths, so it's actually quite, yeah, interesting, I guess. Yeah.
We'll drive into that later, but yeah, that's like just wow. Guys, life is about decisions, and we won't have the whole space here about talking about all the amazing decisions that you guys have taken along your life, right? But let's try to stay into like 1 to 3 from each of you. 3 important decisions that have led you to the life you have today and the person you are today.
Okay.
Okay. I'll start. So the first kind of important decision that I made kind of just came really just happened almost by itself. And that was when I was in college, there was a design competition that was at the time it was led by Disney. And it was all about essentially getting college kids together in teams and creating a some kind of Disney experience. And it was truly an open prompt. And this was kind of presented to some of my college classmates and myself. And early at the time, like all of us were interested, but we had a lot going on. We were college students. I think we were in our fourth year. And it really just happened like we were all in studio one day and one of our friends said, "Do you want to do this?" And all of us were like, "Yeah, let's do it." And it was such like an important and kind of impactful decision because it ultimately led and set in motion everything that I was able to kind of achieve from that moment forward in terms of again ultimately like getting a job at Disney, an internship that turned into a full-time position, that turned into living abroad, that ultimately like led me to working, doing restaurant design at RBI, and then and marriage, and then starting our own company. So yes, that's really the first thing, the decision that I made. And the second one, and I kind of already touched on it, was relocating to Shanghai. So that was such an important decision because it was our first time. Kelly and I relocated there together. It was our first time living abroad. And I think before that moment, I never ever thought about living abroad. We love to travel, and we always imagine ourselves traveling places, but not necessarily like living in a different country. And I think we just enjoyed that experience so much. It really allowed us to like take a deeper look into like other cultures and the way that other people live. And in some ways, there were things we loved better than our kind of like the place where we came from, which was the U.S. And other things we didn't necessarily understand, or things that were just different, but like we came to appreciate those differences. So that was really like an eye-opening experience that again set into motion other, you know, where we live now in Thailand, and ultimately starting our own business, because it really opened our mind to like what the possibilities are. And I think the third thing is for us was starting our own company. So we have our own architecture, branding, and concept design studio. Kelly and I are partners in it, and I think that decision went along with like we ended up moving to Thailand. We live on an island called Koh Samui, and kind of that as a package together was like I think that third big decision that we made, and it's been fantastic ever since.
And he paraphrased a lot of things that also include me, but so my three would be probably the decision to leave my very small town, one stoplight town in Pennsylvania, and go to school in Ohio for university. That's where I pursued interior design. That's kind of what opened my eyes to firms around the nation. I was able to co-op or intern at a major firm in New York City, at another firm in San Francisco, and then ultimately at Disney. So that led to my Disney career then. So I would say that's probably my first big decision to leave my home base and explore elsewhere, pursuing my degree. And then similarly to Justin, when Disney gave us the opportunity to move to Shanghai, China, it was, an incredible eye-opening experience, and just something that like totally formed us into who we are today, both with our desire for travel, desire for exploration of other countries, other cultures, other foods. And then it was a really great business learning opportunity as well, dealing with just different, business practices that may occur in the East versus the West. And so that was really eye-opening. And then third would probably be the decision to move to Singapore, which then led to moving to Thailand. So again, getting back to Asia and really setting us up for a good move to start our own business here in Samui, and really kind of launch from Singapore experience first.
That is so nice. I love that. I mean, it's so cool how you guys, start somewhere, but definitely start crossing path and just like having this beautiful life now. What was your first impression coming into Shanghai? Because you both are saying it was an eye-opening, opportunities are endless basically because you're just seeing another uh place, right? Another culture, another everything. What do you
Yeah.
remember about being that first, like, wow, I love this place?
I think the thing about Shanghai that was I think so impressive is that it felt in a lot of ways like any modern U.S. city. Tall buildings, bright lights, great restaurants. But I think that there's something about it that it's like you're not, even though it reminds you of these places you've been before, it's different, right? Like the culture there is different. The people, like we were going there for work, and the way that like you interact with people from different cultures, it's just there's different customs that you have. And I think that like in a lot of ways too, it's like some of the things that we really appreciated was like simple things like public transit. Easy to get around, right? Like you think we were living in LA at the time, and we drive everywhere in LA, right? And everything's really far, and it was really easy to just like navigate this really big city. It's at the time it was I think the largest city in the world. It may still be the largest city, but like navigate it very easily. And then as a place that we saw it where they were like constantly extending the rail lines, and like there was like a true kind of master plan to this major city that's already built, that like you could see it continue to grow, and you saw like expats and foreigners living there and thriving.
Yeah, I will say that I felt my first time landing in Shanghai that it was super future forward. I mean, there were definitely remnants of it that reminded me of Manhattan, but also it was like taken to a complete new whole level, with how quickly things are built, how like willing to risk their, they're willing to take risks, really, really quick processes, and things may work, so they get torn, or may work and they're success, and things may not and they're quickly torn down and replaced. Entrepreneurship was like huge there. There were so many friends that we made from all over the world that were just, had this dream of starting some business, and Shanghai set the groundwork for them to do that. And it was just, we were always seeing the city evolving and changing, so it was really exciting, to be a part of all that.
Oh, cool. Well, I have so many questions, but I need to continue on the line.
No worries.
Let's talk about the toolbox, because for you to take the decisions and everything that you have gone through life, there has been a toolbox that has been there with you and that continues to accompany you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think my main toolbox is truly the world around me. I'm inspired by everything, and also frustrated by certain things too, right? So in simple things. So like if we are traveling and we go to an airport, and like the line is moving slowly and then people aren't efficient, like I kind of like end up honing into like everything, like, oh, we can improve this process better if like, or if they did this, or like, like like we I think both of us to an extent like have become very obsessed with like everything beyond just design, right? I think like the way that,
Functionality.
yeah, functionality, right? The way that uh people live and work and play, it's like the whole thing, including the design portion, really does matter to us. And I think because of that, like my wheels are always spinning in my head in terms of like how can we make things better? So like ultimately it's like the toolbox to me, the first thing is it's just the world around me, because everything around me, I'm inspired by everything around me. I think the second thing is I use a lot of like curiosity and structured thinking to set things in motion. So I just said like, the wheels are always spinning, and they are. And then, I use my own kind of curiosity to, lead down other paths. And I kind of find myself also connecting dots for different things that like may not seem related, but they seem related like in my own head. And I think a lot of times they end up just leading to like, oh yeah, this would be a good idea. But it's again this combination of like the world around me, the things that are going on in my head, and like my own curiosity.
And I'd say my probably biggest tool that I use or rely on are just allies, people that I can depend on. Justin obviously being one of them, but family, friends, former colleagues that kind of know what vision we have for our life, what we're aspiring to be, where we're aspiring to go. And so then they're kind of a great sounding board, to tell me if this idea is crazy or if I should go for it, or, so I usually, upon big decisions like this, I like to kind of vet them through people I trust, to see what their thoughts are on the matter.
Yeah, that's always good, to share and get some thoughts because it's only one head, your head, and well, right now, Justin, and then maybe a few others. I love having this space because as people are telling me, toolbox or decisions and it's really telling the audience because everybody connects in a different way right now, right? But right now I'm hearing also Justin, and it's like I'm always looking for, improving the strategy on the system. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not. I thought it was crazy. I thought it was the only one, I'm in this line. I'm like, we could this we could do this better, and it's so fun to see how we are all connected in a way, but we're so different as well. There's one question that I always wanted it to know because, we have been in calls, but it's being work calls. And this is the very first time I'm getting ready. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have this call. Justin Kelly, we have jumping calls for work. And right now it's, in I Maria podcast. This is so amazing. Blue, pink. I love that every time we jump in a call. It's like, I love this, guys. Tell me
Thank you.
about making this
Yeah.
decision. So I'm like, always Justin Blue,
Yeah.
Kelly, always pink. I
Yeah.
love it.
So I just talked about like everything around the world inspiring us, right? We were at a design conference and we had seen another couple. We were in Singapore and we had seen another couple that had like really cool glasses and like really fancy jewelry and like they stood out amongst like everyone else. Like they didn't have the same thing on, but like the way that they were dressed was like very professional, but like it was like also very eye-catching. And it was really at that moment where we had already decided we were planning to start our own design studio. And it was at that moment when we said, we need to brand ourselves, right? Like,
Mhm.
and then the way that we dress and identify with like certain, colors and obviously like the glasses. So that's really where it started and where it came from.
But
And then,
I will lead in with also remember we had talked about this. I was doing some work for Gulfstream in New York before moving to Singapore, and there was a pair of clients that came into the office, and they're very well known. They're brothers, but they're very well known for matching one another, and that's part of their brand. So even with coming, to purchase an aircraft, they came to the meeting dressed alike or complementary of one another, and it was very noticeable that this is like their statement as themselves, as family, as a brand. And so I think we even chatted about it at that point, like, wow, that's like super memorable. You don't forget that. And so I
Mhm.
think even now when Justin and I go to different conferences, expos, whatever, everyone, although they may have not worked with us yet, our brand Snobbirds, but they'll notice us and say, "We remember you guys from the last time." Like it's definitely made its mark in the way that we wanted it to, and for consistency's sake with the brand colors and with what we stand for.
yeah. And I'll say like the colors itself, like when we were like developing our brand, like we really latched on to like the two birds that for snob birds, and then we went with the kind of stereotypical like pink and blue, but we wanted to make it something fun
Vibrant,
and
yeah.
vibrant. Kelly's got a couple like really bright like pink suits and
Like
shirts.
later pink.
And it's like you could see her like from a mile away at any convention. Like it's like she's pretty cool. And then a lot of times we'll like switch. Like I'm not always in blue, she's not always in pink. Like, but we usually try to do opposites. So like I've got a few things that are pink and
Okay.
she's got a few things that are blue. And sometimes we throw a little neutrals in there. But
And just like the couple that motivated us with their like statement, accessories, we find it really cool too because former colleagues or friends or just acquaintances have seen us or met us and know these glasses, know our fashion statement with this. And when we've inspired them to like go out and purchase, also really fun exotic glass frames and they're like embracing it totally. So it's really cool to see that all around us.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can get that. I see you guys and it's like, yes, I love this. What moment made you realize it was time to design your life the way you wanted it?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll let Kelly lead this because it actually was a long time ago that we first kind of came up with this idea, and it took us some years to get there. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. Shanghai obviously opened a lot of doors for us as far as, taking design to construction, really understanding the field work, really seeing things come to fruition, seeing the guests interact with the park that we just, designed and built. And the team of people, the amount of collaboration. And I think Justin and I had traveled so much of Southeast Asia and Asia when we were in China that we really felt passionately about the region of the world and really saw ourselves like building a future here. So that was kind of, in 2000, between 2012 and 2016, when we were basically, in the throes of Shanghai, when we were really toying with the idea of what would it be like if we took all these experiences that we've had in the career and really, between ourselves, honed in on them, and we were contractors, freelancers, we had our own studio, and we could live anywhere in the world and preferably in Asia. So we've been chatting about it together a long time since then. And of course, post Shanghai, we returned to LA, went back to work, in the,
Back to
in
the
the
car.
office, back to the car, back to the office. And I actually really struggled with that, because I really liked the instantaneous decisions that were being made in the field, that people can belabor during the design process. And at some point you just have to, make a call and what's appropriate for the site, for the client, for the guest. So I was really missing, although obviously concept is really exciting, there is some realistic intent you have to put into it when it's going to be built form, right? So I was really missing that. So that's when I made a change in career. But I think even still, Justin and I continued to chat about like what would it take us to get abroad again and really like work together as a pair, because we had never worked on an actual project together. We worked on Shanghai Disneyland, but he was on one part of the park and I was on a different part of the park. So this was like the right opportunity, to join forces together, after moving back to Singapore and then deciding to move to Thailand. And I think it was
Nice.
right. I think it was right to wait because obviously we only had the theme park experience. So of course we could totally, drive that as our industry to target. But then I went into aviation, Justin went into restaurant design. So I think it just
Wow.
expanded our minds further in design in general, and then getting our eyes open to how other companies work, meeting other teams to work on. Like it definitely was a better time to wait and get more experience under our belt for sure.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on what Kelly said, it's like I rarely look back and with like an eye of regret in terms of the choices I made, right? Like I'm very much kind of like thinking moving forward, but once in a while, I will think like thinking back, like, are there any decisions that I've made that I would have done differently or made differently? And like, I really can't think of anything. I don't think there's anything I would have done differently. Like Kelly already touched on it. When we repatriated back from Shanghai to LA, there was an adjustment that was like it was harder to relocate from Shanghai to LA than it was from LA to Shanghai. Like it truly was. And I think both of us struggled for a while. And frankly, we were working on some different projects and things that we weren't as enthusiastic about as we had been in the past. Uh, but I think that ultimately those experiences that I had were good, right? And I think it like they're experiences that like we take with us to our our work today that we do in terms of being able to adapt in terms of like it's not always going to be like you know roses and perfect picture all the time, right? Like everyone's life and career kind of goes through and work goes through like these like kind of ups and downs. So there's nothing I would do differently. And I'm super happy again like where we are right now.
Yeah. It all
I
led to
mean,
this, so it worked out.
yeah, living on an island with your company. I saw you guys are traveling for cruise.
Yeah, I'm heading back to
Um,
Miami.
that's nice.
Yeah, cruise ship interiors conference. Yeah, I'm
Right, that's what
excited.
I was. That's so cool. Um, how has your partnership evolved personally and professionally? Because you guys were working on the same company, doing different projects, but then you guys decide to come together and do this great partnership.
Yeah, I think when we so the personal side of it, like we've always had a very strong relationship. That part has been very easy. I think we get along very well, and there's very few disagreements. Usually she's right. So, I have come to accept
I was
that.
waiting for
That's
that.
why. That's why.
On the work side, I think there was definitely in the beginning a short period, maybe a month, where like it took some time for us to get used to like our different styles, right? Because everyone has their own style and way they work, and it can be anything from like how you send an email. What do you normally say? Like there's these little things that you don't think
File
about, right? But
organization.
when we like as a
Mhm.
company, we have one voice, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Kelly mentioned like file organization, like we're both organized, but in our own different way, right? And I think also just the way that you communicate, right? Like we both always feel like whatever work setting we're in, whether it's our own company in a corporate setting or a small agency, super important to be like respectful to others and communicate in a way that's empathetic, right? Like I've always tried to have a level of empathy to understand like the other person's position, even if I disagree. But I think that like when you in a work setting that's like you're not working with your spouse, when you go home, you just leave like the work stuff at work, right? Whereas like we're just like this the word,
It
but
all
like
blends
it all
together.
blends together. Yes.
But I will say, Just, I feel like even when we were both at Disney working different projects, or even when Just was at RBI and I was at Gulfstream, like I do feel like we always have come home in the evenings and still chatted about our work day or chatted about work. So I feel like that hasn't really, obviously, it's even more ingrained now because we're working on the same things. But I will say, I think we never really had like a separate life work conversation. It always kind of was a blend.
Yeah. I guess I was referring more to like uh again, we're one company, we have one voice. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sometimes there's a design element that like I may like but she doesn't like, right? And I think that's where it gets like it took some time to like understand the best way to like navigate this communication, right? Because it like in most workplaces, there's a clear hierarchy, right? Like super clear. And at some point, someone has like the
Buy off.
ultimate say.
Yeah.
So that's what I was more referring to. It's like
Mm.
arriving at these kind of work
Fair.
decisions
Yeah.
as one voice. We hadn't done that before, and that took some time to
Yeah.
adjust.
I think it's good because Justin has obviously his skill set, his strengths, and then I have my skill set and my strengths. And I don't think like they're exactly the same, obviously. So there's definitely things as entrepreneurs and as business owners that he really does well. And then I just kind of let him lead that. And then I do things differently on skill set level. So I think it's a good blend that we're both not bringing the same talent. We both can like, banter off of one another and use each other as the sounding boards to make these decisions.
And that's great that you talk about that because it is a company. When you're making a company, you have different houses that you have to fulfill, and you got to
Mhm.
understand which is the expert in
Right.
that, right? And so that you can lead. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about what's the story behind Snowbirds and what is the meaning behind the name?
All right. So the company name is Snobbirds, and it's a play on the word snowbird. So a lot of people in the U.S. are familiar with the word snowbird, um, and that is someone who usually a retiree who lives up north in an area that's like cold during the winter, and then they fly down or spend time. Someplace in like Florida or Arizona in the southern part of the U.S. When it's like in the winter where it's warmer, and then they go back up during the summer, right? So similar to like bird migrations, like they fly according to like the different like weather patterns. And it really started off for us as something that was I don't want to say a joke, but like it kind of did. We didn't start it off of like, all right, we gotta come up with a company name, like this is what we want to do. It started off with something like a few years earlier. So when I took a job, took a job to lead design at RBI, we were moving from LA to Miami, and we had always, it really wasn't until that point where like we still had roots in LA that we decided we weren't gonna leave when we decided to move to Miami. But like this idea of like living between two places kind of like started to manifest. And we kind of joked to ourselves, like, if you're living between like Miami and LA,
Which are both warm weather
both
places.
warm weather cities, you're not really a snowbird. You're more like a snowbird, right? So that's where the name, like the kind of joke initially kind of came about. And then, the more we started to just like talk about it, we kind of felt like it had like a deeper meaning, or it could have a deeper meaning. So one thing is like when you think about a snob, it can have a negative connotation, but it can also have a positive connotation. So, if you think about like a book snob, or a beer snob, or a wine snob, or a coffee snob, it really infers that like this person is an expert in their field or in their category, or they're a subject matter expert. So we say we're design snobs, design snobs. So that's the kind of the one part of it. And then the other part is, we mentioned previously, we love to travel. So similar to like birds migrating from one place to another, we travel the world for inspiration and to experience new places.
It's
That's very
multi-layered.
cool.
Yeah, so it's a multi-layer. Yeah,
It's a blend.
yeah, so it's a blend.
I love
Yes.
it. Well,
But
that's
it's actually interesting because I was just going to say, in this part of the world, no one's really familiar with the term snowbirds. So it actually plays out very easily here to just kick off saying like, oh, we're snowbirds, design matter experts in, and blah, blah, blah. And oh, okay, that makes sense. But in the US, because snowbirds is such a prevalent term, it takes a little more, explanation.
I love it because it's a way on how you came up together with a full company, and there's a whole story behind you, the name, the company, and that just blends together with, I'm sure, your clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anyone that or a thing that has inspired you to design this life and with this philosophy that you guys have?
I think that like in terms of I don't think there's a singular person that has like uh inspired the life that like inspired us to like lead the life that we lead today. But there are certain people I think over the course of our lives that have inspired us. So like for me, one noteworthy person would be like Steve Jobs. I think that like me as a person, like I'm again always thinking, like the wheels are always spinning, but like I really am motivated by like the future, like super motivated by it, right? Like again, how do we make things better? Or, how do we live a life more fulfilling? Okay, life is fulfilling now. How do we even make it even better? Um, so and I think that like I'm very much like drawn to people who are like visionaries who can like see, you know, 5, 10 years ahead, right? Um, and Steve Jobs to me is clearly like one of those people who, um, when it came to the home computers, like he saw it, right? Like there was people who had a lot more money. There were like, there was people that were a lot smarter, that like could have done this, right? And they didn't. I think that I always think about, just to give one example, this isn't an Apple a story, but this is a Xerox. So Xerox had the patent for the mouse, the computer mouse. And this was, I think, in the 80s, and they didn't know what to do with it. So they sold it to IBM for $50,000, right? So you think about, again, the mouse that we use today, that everyone uses, millions of people use, uh, IBM made a fortune off of it. So I think it's like, again, these people who can like
Mm.
really see into the future, and it doesn't have to be that far, right? Like, if you think about like 2 years ago before ChatGPT, um, you know, it, things can change so fast, right? And if someone's just even like a year ahead, a few months ahead, it gives them such a leg up in terms of like from a business standpoint, like ultimately like dominating the market and being able to like deliver a product that like people will like love and ultimately make people's lives better.
Yeah, I don't think I have one particular person in that I can pinpoint, but I think a lot of the times it's peers. I mean, you're an inspiration, Maria, because like you're doing this podcast, and as soon as you launched, well, how about it? We were so obsessed with the fact that you were taking this leap. Like
Yeah.
it is something,
Oh.
there is something vulnerable about doing a podcast, right? And putting yourself in front of the camera, in front of an audience. So, like, just like you, just like our friends that obviously all move abroad and take jobs elsewhere. And, I think professional women are obviously very inspiring, especially those that juggle multiple hats of home life, etc. And then just people trying to like make peace in the world and do good for others. I think there's just a lot of great people on the planet, and it just is a matter of making big impacts, together.
Yeah. And just one thing to add, I think that like I gave the example of like Steve Jobs, but like I really am inspired by everyone, and Kelly's right. Like Maria, like you are definitely inspiring for us as well, or for me too. But like I would say even like kids, right? Like kids that like inspire me because it's like they like compared to like when we were growing up, like they've got like all this tech like at their fingertips. And like I remember my one of my good friends, his when his son was born, like I think his son was like maybe like 8 or 9 months, and he's like, yeah, my son knows how to use our iPad. He can unlock it, he
Mm.
knows the code, and it's just like it's like mind blowing, right? And it starts to
Yeah.
like you start to think about like, okay, well, like if this kid can do this now, like what can like that like what are the jobs going to be in the future, and
That's
like what can that do,
Yeah.
what can that kid do like 10 years from now, and like you start to think about like, okay, what are the what is the world going to look like, again in the future, and like when you have access to this type of technology so early on in your life, right? Whereas for us it was not as advanced. We had
Yeah.
like Game
Game
Boys
Boys.
and things like that. But you've got like iPads, right? So what's in 10 years from now, like what's going to be the device that like the new kids are going to have that's like 10 times better than what's available today?
Yeah. And you have to stay relevant you have to stay on top of it, right? To be relevant and to be in the know, and yeah.
And that is so hard. I'm driving with my son one day back from school to the house, and he's like, he always is asking me about these questions on like, what does a deer eat? I'm like, well, we'll find out when we get home because I think he leaves, and he's like, let's ask Siri, Mom. And I'm like, wow, I mean, yeah, how didn't
Siri
think
has all
about
the
it,
answers, Mom.
right? Where do you get that?
That's so
What would
cool.
you say is the superpower of the others? So, Justin, you have to say superpower from Kelly, and Kelly, a superpower from Justin.
All right, you go first, Cal.
Okay, I have a couple, but I'd say Justin's very patient. And I'd say that's a big superpower because I'm not patient, and he's dealt with my impatience for a very long time. I also feel like his other superpower is he's very analytical, and just like he was saying, how he's always, wheels turning. Sometimes you can physically see it when he's hard thinking, and I'm always like, "What are you thinking about? What are you thinking about?" But I feel like because of that, he's always kind of one step ahead, whether it be travel or business or life. He's always thinking and preparing for whatever that is. So I would say those are like two big ones.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I like that. You did two, so now I have to do two. So I think the first one for me is Kelly is incredibly organized. It's a superpower. I think it's like whether it's our personal life or professional lives, it's like things are very like orderly in terms of whether the way they're structured. Whether it's again like meeting with clients, or it's like organizing like all these like files that we have, physical files, or like when we're doing these moves, like she's like a machine. It's crazy, like labeling stuff, putting things in boxes, like we have moving companies come and like they're like, wow, your house is already they don't have to do anything. They just put the boxes and like put it on. Like, everything's already labeled. It's like insane. And I think her second superpower is that she's just like she believes, right? So like she can come up with like we should do this, and it could be the craziest idea ever, right? And this is like she believes like we can do this. So like when she first like we came to where we live now in Koh Samui on a 2 or 3 day holiday. And it was shortly after we moved to Singapore. And she's like, we got to buy a house here. We got to live here. And it's just like, we just got to Singapore. We're not doing this. And she's like, we can make it happen. And she was like, she can believe something into existence. So I
She
think
can
that's
make it
definitely
happen.
I'm
exactly.
manifesting.
Yes, yes. That's definitely her superpower.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Has there been a biggest no or yes that changed everything?
So the biggest no I had was that I wouldn't say it changed everything, but I mentioned earlier about living in Shanghai and relocating to Shanghai being like this kind of milestone decision that I had made. But initially, I had actually when I was offered the opportunity to relocate to Shanghai, I said no. For a bunch of different reasons. It actually had less to do with like me personally wanting to like relocate to Shanghai. It had more to do with like what I felt like was at the time like a great kind of work situation that I was in, and I thought that there might be like another opportunity to relocate like at a later date. And I ended up talking about through it with Kelly, and I was like, I think I'm gonna say no, and she's like,
And I was a believer.
she was a believer. She was a believer. She's like, we can do it. It's fine. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think this is the right time, the right
True.
situation. And so she really tried to convince me to do it. And I was like, no, I don't think this is the right time. So then I go to my boss, a manager at the time, and I told him, no, I don't want to take the opportunity. And he was like, oh, okay. And then like the next day he called me back to his office. He's like, I want you to like rethink this because, this other opportunity that you're thinking about, like that may come in the future, it's like it may not actually come, right? Like there may not actually be an opportunity. This opportunity is here now. So then I thought about it again, went back to Kelly, and like Kelly's like, this is your second chance, you better take this. And yeah, so the rest is history. We ended up reversing that decision from a no to a yes. And yeah, it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ultimately ever made.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was a great decision. Yeah. And I was a yes, as soon as they said, Kelly, we can make a relocation happen for you, I said, absolutely. And I was about a month behind Justin. So it was perfect.
Is there a no that
That
you have that you've made?
No. I don't know that I've said no and had major regret. Can you think of anything?
seems like Kelly is always on a yes. Yes, we can make
Yeah,
this
she's a
happen. And
Yes,
believer.
it
woman.
Like,
Yes, woman.
happens.
Yeah, I don't, hmm,
A
I
big
don't think
yes.
so.
yeah, I think she sees the positive in a lot of things, and I think that like uh for her it's like yes because this could lead to something great, right? Almost always it's like yes because this could lead to something great, no matter what it is. It's like she's able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel you. I know it. Pink. It's the pink thing. It's yeah, positive. It's guys, let's talk a little bit about Disney because for everybody, Disney is like, whoa. And you guys, you're talking about everything you do, the detail, the thinking ahead. Even, we discuss about kids. And this summarize what, in a way, is Disney. And I'm like, wow, I don't know what is working there, what the opportunities are. We were chatting that the CEO wakes up at 4, whatever, but it's all about making dreams come true, or, that's what they say. Let's just talk a little bit about that experience. I'm not going to ask specific questions because I just want you to tell about, what it was from college to Disney or just working there. Is it like a
Yeah,
dream come true?
it is. It really is. I mean, I will say that it is a corporation at the end of the day, right? It is a business. And I think that like everything that comes along with that, the goods and the bads, like it's similar to any other company. But it truly is a special place. And let me just start by also saying that I think that like whether it's Disney or any other company, because have spent so much of our career there, it really has shaped, I think, the way that we think, right? And I think that like if you spent, you know, 10 years, your first 10 years of your career at any company, I think like that company would like mold
Yeah.
you, right? And into the way that you think. I think more the good than the bad, but like, both come. But I think truly it's like you really think about like the positive and good things of that company that end up shaping the way that you kind of like the rest of your career kind of takes shape. Um, so for us, like working at Disney was, I didn't even, let me start with like when I was in college, like I didn't even know any, like I'd been to Disneyland once in my life when I was like 5, so I don't even remember it. And had never even thought of like designing Disney theme parks as a career. Like it's just like, I was in architecture school, like wanted to work for like the SOMs and the Genslers and design these like cool high rises and like, mega towers. Like didn't even like really come up as like a possibility. I think for Kelly,
Same.
similarly, right?
Yeah, Disney was not on my radar until actually a group of Imagineers from Florida came to my campus and gave a lecture. And then I was like mind blown that there were graphic designers, landscape architects, interior designers, all working on a theme park. Like it was never talked about at school ever. So it was like, yeah, similar to Justin, I'd only been to Disney World when I was 6. So it's not like we grew up, obviously we were big Disney animation movie fans, like grew up with, Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and stuff. But I don't think either of us were thinking like this is where our career trajectory was taking us.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so both of our paths were a little bit different. I had mentioned earlier that I had entered a design competition. My team was selected as a finalist, and they flew us out to LA for 2 weeks. And it was like maybe like some of the best 2 weeks of like my entire life. Like it was like just seeing how people like I think collaborate there. Again, we got just a little bit of a window into it when we were like doing the design competition, but like how they collaborate, the creativity. I mean, there's things there. They have their own R&D like in-house where that actually feeds the rest of the Walt Disney Company. So the segment that we worked in had about 1,000 people, but the Walt Disney Company has over 100,000 people. So this like little kind of creative arm of the company really does feed design and innovation and different research concepts to like the entire company. And I think just like being there and seeing just a little bit of it was just like, wow, this would be really cool. And had never ever thought about like living in LA at the time, and like all of a sudden like LA seems like really cool. So that's where it kind of started. And then Kelly had internships.
Yeah, I did a couple internships while I was in college, and then once I graduated, I rejoined Disney again in California. And similar to Justin, it was very magical. Like the whole experience, still to this day, our lifelong friends came from our Disney, working there. It's very much like a family atmosphere. Everyone's very, very close. There's a lot of collaboration, a lot of creativity, like Justin said, and everyone's very passionate about the work. It's like from blue sky concept to construction, and when the park opens, or a resort opens, or a cruise ship opens, it's just everyone is putting their all into it and really, really passionate about the end product and really passionate about how it affects the guests and how the guests interface with it. So I think it was, yeah, I mean, it was like life changing. And now to this day, because of, like Justin said, us working so long at Disney, many things that we learned from working there, we still bring into our work today. And a lot of it is very, how guests are interacting with an item, a space, and how we see that moving forward.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons that like Disney is so successful, and in particularly like I think the theme park group, it's like everyone truly cares about like what they're working on and their kind of specific specialty, and also how that fits into others. So like you would be in a meeting with let's say an ops person, and then you might be in another meeting or in the same meeting with someone from creative, and then someone from the ride team, and like everyone's giving their input from their own angle, but I think everyone kind of respects the other angle, right? Like there isn't, because they know that ultimately
They're
this
relying on each other.
balance
Yeah.
leads to like a great product that everyone will enjoy. So like if I come up with some like crazy design that's just like the coolest thing you've ever seen, and let's say it's a new ride or a new coaster at a theme park, but like it's such a crazy idea that like the maintenance team can't like keep it up, right? Like it's constantly like breaking down because it's so crazy. Well, if no one gets to ride this like really great attraction, then it's a fail. It's a failure, right? So again, that just goes back to what I was saying about like everyone's really thinking about like how their scope impacts the other, and I think that's what makes it like a really special place to work.
Mhm.
The other thing that I'll say is like as a designer, and as someone who I think, I identify as someone who's like creative and very like forward thinking, like the whole place is littered with like people like that, right? Like even from like an operator standpoint, like they're really usually trying to like push the boundary of like, how can we make this better for the guest? Uh, there was always the saying that like at the end of the day, there's just one name, right? As you enter the park, and that's Disney, right? Like, no one walked into a Disney park and was like, man, that's what Justin Harris worked on, right? Like, no one cares about that, right? But I think that like knowing you were a part of that is the part that's like super rewarding and fulfilling. And like going to a theme park and like seeing like whether it's like a kid that's like 8 years old or like an adult that's 80, like loving and enjoying the thing that you worked on is like such a fulfilling, I
Yeah.
think, experience.
Yeah, definitely.
How cool. That's why I had to ask, because you don't know. And always only think about the theme park, but I did not think about the resorts and the cruise ships. Wow,
Yeah.
Mhm.
amazing. Of course, I'm being cautious of time, and I could be here for like 2 hours or even more, of course. But I'm gonna ask this last question to close up the episode, and is what does success look like to you now compared to 10 years ago? And where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
Yeah, I think that like for me, the definition of success, and I think for a lot of people, it changes as you get older, right? So when I was right out of school, like success was, yeah, like making a ton of money and like having a lot of power, right? Like that's like the very basic level of success for me as like a 23-year-old. I think as you get older, like your values change, right? You start to realize that like money can't buy you everything. And like, power doesn't necessarily lead to happiness all the time. And I think that like a big reason why we are where we are, is because, over time, like that's changed, right? Like I've started to care a lot more about like health, right? The things that like, oh, you're not, when you're 23, I feel like I was gonna live forever. And you realize like, I'm not gonna live forever. So like things like, Kelly's happiness and like my family's happiness and friends and making sure that everyone's healthy. Like those are the things that like to me are like super important. And I think that like success to me is defined by like a lot of it is designed by or to me defined by like happiness, right? Like are you happy doing what you're doing? Because everyone can't be the CEO. It's not because they're not capable, but just because like you need people to you need companies to like work and like do things and like it's just not like the numbers don't work out that way, right? And I think that there's a lot of CEOs who are unhappy, and I would say they're not successful if they are unhappy, right? If they're happy in that role, then that's like I think you could consider that to be one level of success. But I think it's for me it's very much a like how you define success is should be by like what are your own metrics, right? Like I think if you
Mm-hmm.
start to define success by like someone else's metric, you're going to go down a hole that's like not going to lead you to your own happiness. So I think for me personally, like living a healthy life, is kind of like one step to success. I think Another one would be like living a life where it's I don't have any financial burdens. That would be like another one. And I think there's again these other kind of like pillars that fall below that are just like my own way of like defining success. In terms of 10 years from now, I think for us it's like doing more of the same and working on great projects that we're passionate about, things that we feel, or I feel that like, and those Kelly might think differently, that make a difference in the world, no matter how small or big, right? Like, I feel like you can make a difference, but like no one actually like realizes it, and I think that's okay, even if it's like something small, and that's just kind of my outlook and approach.
And I think success for me, similar to Justin, when I got out of college, I was very passionate about being a successful female employee and growing through the ranks, chasing promotions, money, titles, all these things. But I will say, like Justin touched on CEO's unhappiness during my private jet design career. I did, obviously interface with many rich individuals. And I can say you could, see from mannerisms, see from interaction that not all of them were happy, even with the amount of money that they had. So I think to that point, for me, it's always been about really capitalizing on time and using the time that we have on earth to the best, of our ability. So if travel, for me, travel makes me happy. So if Justin and I can travel to more countries, see more things around the globe, like that makes me extremely happy. And then not having any regrets, because again, we only have so much time. So I think it's always been about balancing now work and life, and really spending time in the right manner, and not just focusing on grinding away with work, corporate lifestyle all the time like I was formerly. 10 years from now, probably, yes. Growing Snobbirds more and more, getting, great projects to work on across the board of different industries, taking risks, on different projects and new experiences, and seeing more of the world.
Saying yes to all these
Yeah,
things
thank
that makes us happy.
And I think ultimately, Justin and I always talk about, like, we love the ability to live on Samui, work on Samui, and what could that look like elsewhere in the world as well. So, could we potentially split time multiple places and really have experiences around, around a year, different places and working. And so I think that's also in the back of our minds for future as well.
Yeah. I think for us, like owning our own design studio and starting our own design studio has been like super rewarding in the sense that, like, for a number of reasons, but like particularly in the sense that like it gave us this like freedom that we felt like we didn't always have in the corporate structure, right? The freedom to kind of like work on specific projects, or the freedom to like manage our own time in a way that's like different, right? And I think that's the thing that like really has opened our eyes in terms of like, we're, again, saying yes to things leads to great things. It's like we're not necessarily opposed to someday like, changing things up and like, I don't want to say going back, but like going in a different path, right? But I think that like for sure, like doing what we're doing now, like our own studio, living in Thailand, like it's something that has been very rewarding for us, because we feel like we're in the most control of our lives than we've ever been. And I think that's, for us, it's super, super important. And it's kind of just shown itself to be like very rewarding.
Yeah.
Justin and Kelly, thank you for reminding us that balance, beauty can coexist. And that is not about just following the script, but designing your own life, just like Justin and Kelly are doing. To our listeners, if there is something in your life that feels too small for your spirit, this is your sign to say yes to the unknown. Start with intention, start small, but start. Make sure you follow Justin and Kelly's journey And don't forget to share this episode with someone who's ready to design a life of their own. Thank you again for being here. I am so excited that we finally make this happen. And not because you guys, it was because I didn't ask before.
Oh, no, we
Thank you
appreciate
again.
this.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us, Maria.